Ever trusted a firearm to protect your life, only to have it fail when everything was on the line? Yeah, that feeling sticks. Today, we're breaking down guns that looked good on paper, felt solid in the hand, but when it mattered most, they fell apart. We're talking rifles that fire when they're unsafe, pistols that go bang just from chambering around, and handguns that malfunction like they're built to betray you. Some of these failures are so wild, they'd be funny if they weren't so damn dangerous. This is the stuff most manufacturers hope you forget. But here at Firearms Zone, we don't sweep malfunctions under the rug. We lay it all out. So buckle up, because we're diving into 10 firearms that turned out to be total reliability fails, even from brands you thought were bulletproof. Let's get into it. Number 10. Winchester XPR. Winchester built the XPR to be a budget-friendly bolt gun for hunters who wanted performance without breaking the bank. On paper, it checked the right boxes: streamlined bolt, decent factory trigger, synthetic stock built for rough weather. But in October of 2015, things got ugly. A recall hit the lineup after reports started surfacing about a catastrophic safety failure. Get this: engaging or disengaging the safety could actually shift internal trigger components, which meant some rifles fired just from flipping the safety, not from pulling the trigger, just from touching the safety selector. That's not a quirk. That's a nightmare. The root cause came down to interference between the safety sear and the rest of the trigger group. It was bad enough that Winchester told owners not to load, not to shoot, just send it in. They issued a retrofit to replace the faulty trigger parts entirely, but the damage was done. Because when your rifle fires while unsafe, that's not a design flaw. That's a failure of trust. Number 9. FN502 Tactical. When a company like FN drops a new pistol, folks expect military-grade reliability, especially when it's wearing the tactical badge. And on the surface, the FN502 Tactical looked like a winner. 22 LR, duty-style controls, suppressor ready. Perfect for low-cost training that mimics your carry setup. But in January 2022, that confidence went out the window. Some units shipped with missing or defective manual safety levers. Let that sink in. Missing. Or installed wrong. Meaning, you could flick the safety to on and still get a live trigger. Or worse, fire the pistol even when it's unsafe. The issue came down to flawed assembly during manufacturing. FN partnered with Umarex for production, and somewhere in that process, critical steps got skipped or botched. Serial numbers under LR010300 were affected. FN urged customers to stop using the pistols immediately and send them in for repair or replacement, free of charge. And credit to them, they owned the problem. But it exposed something bigger. Even trusted brands can lose control when they outsource critical parts. And when the part in question is the safety, there's zero margin for error. Number 8. Colt CBX bolt-action rifles. Colt stepping into the long-range bolt gun world? That got people excited. The CBX series, including the Precision and TAC Hunter variants, was supposed to be Colt's modern answer to distance shooters. But by May 2025, every single model was under recall. And here's why. If you pulled the trigger while the safety was still engaged, the rifle wouldn't fire, which is normal. But the second you flipped the safety to fire, boom! The rifle discharged without touching the trigger again. That's not just a glitch. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Turns out, the problem was deep in the trigger mechanism, specifically how it reset when you disengaged the safety. Colt's official notice told owners to stop using the rifles immediately. They didn't offer a fix. They didn't issue a parts update. They flat out discontinued the entire CBX line and offered customers a refund or a replacement revolver. When a company ditches a whole rifle platform instead of fixing it, that tells you how bad the internal flaw really was. Because when your bolt gun fires the moment it comes off safe, that's not a rifle. That's a risk. Number 7. Colt MSR Series. When it comes to ARs, Colt's name still carries weight. Decades of military contracts, proven track record. So when their MSR series hit shelves, modern sporting rifles like the A4 and CR6920, people expected rock-solid reliability. But in November 2021, that reputation took a hit. Colt issued a recall on rifles made from March 5th of that year and onward. Why? Bad hammers. Specifically, hammers that were out of spec. Here's what would happen. You'd fire a round. The trigger would reset. Then, as soon as you let go, bang! The gun fired again without pulling the trigger twice. It mimicked an accidental binary trigger, totally unintentional and extremely unsafe. The root cause? Some hammers weren't catching on the disconnector the way they should. That meant 2-round bursts without meaning to. Whether the issue came from Colt's line or a bad supplier part, the outcome was the same. Uncontrolled follow-up shots. Colt told all owners to stop shooting, check serial numbers, and send in affected rifles for hammer replacement, free of charge. But here's the big lesson. Even in an AR built by one of the most trusted names in the game, one small part can turn a duty-grade rifle into a liability. Number 6. Remington R51. Now this one? Total disaster. Back in 2014, Remington decided to bring back a legend, the classic Peterson Model 51. Only this time, modernized for concealed carry. Sleek profile, internal hammer, chambered in 9mm. On paper, it sounded like a win. In real life, it was a catastrophic mess. The first-gen R51 had issues from every angle. Failure to feed, failure to extract, failure to eject, stovepipes, magazines dropping loose, slide not returning to battery. Pins worked themselves out. Sights wobbled from the factory. And the action? Felt like it was packed with gravel. But the worst part? There were credible reports of the pistol firing out of battery. Let that settle in. A gun going off when the slide's not fully closed? That's how guns blow up. That's how hands get hurt. Remington later admitted they rushed from prototype to mass production way too fast. Insider leaks even said engineers knew it wasn't ready. The R51 was yanked off shelves, recalled, and then relaunched in 2016 as a second-gen version with fixes. But the damage was already done. Even after the relaunch, mag issues and cycling problems kept showing up. By that point, the gun's rep was toast. It wasn't just a recall. It was a full-blown public relations disaster. Number 5. Ruger MarkV. Ruger's Mark series has always been a favorite in the .22 L2R world. Accurate, well-built, and a staple for training, plinking, and small game. So when the MarkV dropped in 2016, it looked like a big leap forward. One-button takedown? Yes, please. No more fighting those tight frames like on the Mark III, and shooters loved it. Until June 2017. That's when Ruger dropped a wide-reaching recall. Why? A serious flaw in the manual safety. If you pulled the trigger while the safety was stuck halfway between safe and fire, the gun wouldn't go off right away. But the moment you pushed the safety fully into fire mode, it discharged, without touching the trigger again. That's not just weird, that's dangerous. The issue came down to how the sear and trigger bar interacted with the safety components. A slight misalignment created the perfect conditions for an unintentional discharge. Ruger responded fast. They issued a free retrofit with upgraded safety parts, and even tossed in a complimentary magazine. Fixed pistols got a small S inside the safety selector to confirm the update. Now, to Ruger's credit, this wasn't a widespread mechanical meltdown like other guns on this list, but for a pistol with such a loyal fan base, one safety glitch was one too many. Number 4. Ruger American Pistol. Ruger built the American pistol to be their answer to the striker-fired duty-grade market. 9mm. Polymer frame. No-nonsense ergonomics. It was built to compete with the big names in law enforcement and personal defense. And, for the most part, it did just fine. But in October 2018, Ruger issued a product safety bulletin that made folks take a second look. Turns out, some 9mm models were showing excessive slide and barrel wear, especially around the 10,000 round mark. We're not talking cosmetic wear. We're talking cracks forming near the ejection port. Structural failures on a pistol marketed for hard use? That's a deal-breaker. Most of the affected pistols had serial number prefixes 860 and 862 and came with silver-colored barrels. The root cause? Either bad metallurgy, poor surface treatment, or just a flawed locking system in certain production runs. To Ruger's credit, they offered free inspections, upgraded parts, and swapped in black nitride barrels for the ones at risk. But here's the takeaway. If your pistol is meant for duty carry, home defense, or high-volume training, it shouldn't be cracking apart after a few cases of ammo. In the world of serious sidearms, tough isn't optional. Number 3. Smith & Wesson M&P Shield EZ. The Shield EZ was designed with one mission: make semi-autos more accessible. And for folks with reduced hand strength, seniors, new shooters, or anyone tired of stiff slides, it nailed that mission. Easy to rack, light recoil spring, clean trigger. It was a hit. Until November 2020. That's when Smith & Wesson issued a safety recall for pistols made between March and October of that year. The culprit? Bad hammers, supplied by a third-party vendor. These hammers had micro cracks in the metal, and those tiny flaws could cause the hammer to fail in the worst way. Firing during slide closure. That means the gun could go off just from chambering a round. Even worse? In rare cases, it could fire multiple rounds with one trigger pull, basically simulating full auto. And this wasn't limited to unsafe handling. It could happen even with the thumb safety on, as long as the grip safety was pressed. Smith & Wesson owned the issue immediately. They offered full inspections and hammer replacements at no charge, and urged owners to check serial numbers ASAP. It wasn't a design flaw. It was a supplier failure that nearly turned a soft-shooting carry gun into an accidental burst-fire machine. Lesson here? Even when the design's solid, bad parts can still blow it. Number 2. Sig Sauer P365 Early Models. When the P365 dropped in 2018, it changed the game. Micro-compact size, 10+1 capacity, 9mm power in a pocket-sized package. It was everything the everyday carry crowd had been waiting for. But the early production batches? Not ready for prime time. Owners started running into serious issues, right out of the box. Striker assemblies were breaking, especially during dry fire without snap caps. Spent casings failed to eject cleanly. New rounds wouldn't chamber. Slides refused to lock back after the last shot. Triggers went dead or delivered weak primer strikes. And let's not forget the night sights. Some didn't glow, others broke during normal handling. These weren't quirks. They were mission-critical failures in a self-defense gun. The root of it all? A mix of flawed striker design, tight tolerances, and metallurgy that just didn't hold up. Even magazine geometry and feed ramp angles came under scrutiny. Now, here's the twist. Sig never issued a formal recall. Instead, they quietly overhauled the internals in newer batches. Redesigned strikers, stronger springs, better QC. And to their credit, later models run great. But if you're holding on to a first-gen P365, you better check your serial number and test it hard at the range. Because back when this pistol launched, it was revolutionary. But the revolution came with teething problems. Number 1. Sig Sauer P320. This one needs no introduction. The Sig P320 was supposed to be the future. Striker-fired, modular, drop-in fire control unit, one serialized chassis that fits multiple frames and slides. It won military contracts. It became the M17 and M18 for the U.S. Army. But right after the hype, the nightmare started. Reports began surfacing of P320s firing when dropped, usually muzzle up, hitting the rear of the slide. And we're not talking freak accidents. We're talking repeatable drop-fire failures caught on slow-mo video. The problem? The original design had a fully cocked striker and a relatively heavy trigger with no trigger safety tab. Combine that with impact inertia, the gun could fire without a finger on the trigger. That's a worst-case scenario for a carry gun. Sig responded in August 2017 with a voluntary upgrade program. They swapped in lighter trigger components, redesigned disconnectors, and reduced striker mass. But even after the update, more incidents came out. Lawsuits were filed. Some law enforcement agencies suspended the platform entirely. Critics said the internal safety design just didn't meet modern standards. And while Sig claimed the P320 passed industry-standard drop tests, public trust had already been shaken. Today's P320 models are far more refined, but the damage is done. Because when your sidearm can go off just by hitting the floor, that's not a malfunction. That's a failure in the most literal sense. There you have it. 10 firearms that dropped the ball when it mattered most. Some of these were hyped as game changers. Others came from brands you'd swear were bulletproof. But when a gun fails to do the one thing it was built for, that's not just disappointing, that's dangerous. Whether it's firing on safe, going bang when dropped, or falling apart after a few hundred rounds, reliability matters. Always. Now I want to hear from you. Ever owned one of these? Did yours run clean, or did it bite back? Drop your stories in the comments. And if you found this breakdown helpful, or maybe just a little brutal in the right way, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share this with someone who might be walking into a bad buy. This is Firearms Zone, where we talk guns the way real shooters do. Stay trained, stay sharp, and as always, trust the gun you carry.